you two are killing me. I'm gonna have to defend that shit.
You don't have to.
No, I'm gonna.
Captain Spot, Stardate 327622.1. Welcome aboard the Starship's Enterprise, and thank you for joining us as we take a brief shore leave from the world of CinemaSins to explore the universe of...
I'm so sorry.
Appears to be a malfunction with the comm system. Seems to be some kind of irritating gremlin inside it. I am your Captain Ian Whittington, and with me as always is the badassador, Deneé Hughes.
Yay! I like that one. I'm gonna change my name so we use like a little visual to connect. And right now it just says Ambassador Deneé, but I'm gonna change it to Badass.
I am sending a petition, badassador. I'm sending a petition to Starfleet to make sure that is officially what everyone is now called. Mm-hmm. And he's made from solid uranium. It's Commodore Dicer.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Does geranium mean anything to you, Aaron?
Geranium is a flower.
Yes, it is geranium, solid geraniums.
No. I'm feeling very pretty right now. Very beautiful.
Duranium. D-U-R-anium.
Is it?
I have it written in front of me.
I'm going to try that at my next spelling bee. D-U-R-anium.
Could you spell the word before I make an attempt?
No, that means geranium means nothing to me. Is it like unobtainium?
No, it's the opposite, kind of. So Deneé's just done a quick Google search for us, and the first thing, that's the avatar thing, unobtainium. Yeah, the first thing that came up when you typed in geranium is a ton of starships. So it is the go-to, like, hull structure.
Right, no, this is what I was saying.
So
this is why
it's what ships are made out of.
Well, I appreciate that. All I did was I was like, so what I was going to say was, if it's like unobtainium, it's just basically taking what you want it to represent and then making it atanium. So this is just like durable anium. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's just duranium. So that's where I was going. I knew it had to be something durable.
So I'm gonna change yours to Commodore Ambassadanium.
Yes, that's exactly what he said.
Amazing.
Okay.
Well, I mean, 6 minutes in, and we've covered nothing of any relevance to the show.
No, what are you talking about? We're doing important work here.
The podcast that is made out of uranium. But yeah, it's like, oh my god, we're detecting some uranium in the thing, and that would always tell them, oh, this is a Federation ship.
Because only the Federation has access to duranium. To the rest of the universe, it's unobtainium, but to the Federation, it's duranium.
Nice.
It's geranium. Yeah.
What always makes me laugh with those episodes is that the second they figure out, like, oh my god, this is a Starfleet ship, that's when the little piece of hull goes past the screen that has the name of the damn ship on it, and it's like, oh, now you find it.
Yeah.
Just so happens the USS name here.
It's one thing I've never understood. I think we even mentioned this on a previous episode, but I don't understand the whole identifying ships, knowing when they're nearby. It is always so convenient to whatever the plot needs it to be, like when they discover a ship's nearby. It's like, shouldn't there be some sort of like technology advancement to where you could send out some sort of signal, 360 degrees in 3 dimensions, like to see if any ships are within the 1,000 yards or whatever. I don't know.
That's what they do. They have scanners that do that. They do scan for ships. What do you mean?
Oh, there's a ship on the star, and it's like right next to them, and it's like we didn't know it was there. It's like,
yeah, but it's always being masked by like the magnetic pole of the ship, or like a gaseous phenomenon, or it's in the blind spot of the exhaust.
So
that's where it is.
I guess what I'm saying is, especially if it's like a Federation ship, you would think those ships would have some sort of like beacon they're sending. Like,
no, they do. They have to. So it's always suspicious when a ship doesn't have that, and they're like, they're breaking Federation procedures. Right. Yeah, it's a Romulan warbird. They're under no obligation.
I'm just saying you should probably know it's a Federation ship before you look at the type of metal that's on the hull.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I more meant like one that had blown up. So if the bits of metal are all that are left,
I see. Okay,
should have been more specific.
All right, it's a blown up ship. I got it now.
Hey, podcast listeners, don't worry. They're still friends. They've just been arguing for a little while.
Oh, man, I'm going to have to cut some of this out of the intro and put it into the outtakes.
Daddy and Daddy are just having a conversation. That's all.
Oh, my goodness. Right. before we get into the episode, there is, if you didn't see it, a sneaky bonus episode in your feed. This is the first of what we hope will be many. And in this bonus episode, myself and the ambassador were joined by Fleet Commander Jeremy Scott, the voice of CinemaSins, and we talked about Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country.
Did you discover it?
We found it. Done. Mission accomplished.
Cool.
Mission
Great job.
Yeah, it's on
Great
the
job.
knee in a very exposed and sexual way. It's just right
Dangling,
Okay.
just dangling where you wouldn't expect them to be.
something in there. Yeah.
Sure.
So just as a little primer, all you need to know is that this is Deneé's very first exposure to the original crew with Shatton, Nimoy, DeForest Kelly and everything. So the very last original series movie is her first thing that she's watching. So there was some explanation needed.
It's almost like a friend of mine who decided to watch the Scream movies backwards.
I am that friend. I have watched Scream 4, 5, 3, 2.
In that order.
And I still haven't seen one. So, this week, episode 8 of Strange New Worlds, the Elysian Kingdom. Any thoughts, theories on what this week?
Do we know what Elysium is that a word I'm supposed to remember?
Well, Elysium is a movie starring Matt Damon.
Elysian, no.
Is that I'm saying, was that like an alien race that was brought up already?
No, in a word.
Okay.
So, the book, The Elysian Kingdom, is the book that Dr. Mbenga is reading to his daughter.
Oh.
So that's all we
But you know what? It's not going to be about that at all because
It's actually going to be about the Gorn. Like, it had nothing
guys,
to do with it.
listen. We know you've been trying to guess what the show is going to be about from the start, and you've not been doing the best job. So we're going to put it. This is the name of the book.
Yep.
You can bet it's going to be the book, and then they just fuck us. That's what's going to happen.
So
This is nothing.
So basically, and I looked this up to confirm, but both in the Matt Damon movie, and I'm assuming here we're dealing with the original concept of Elysian or Elysium, which was this idea of this state after death where you exist not quite dead, not quite alive. It's kind of like a pre-heaven.
Like in the pattern buffer.
Like in a pattern buffer. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
It's a completely different spelling.
Yeah, but it's certainly echoing that. I mean, it's like, it's
may
like
well
one
be.
letter different, you
But
know?
this could be about Vulcan sex, and we just don't know.
That's true,
no,
that's
but
true.
that's actually what
That's
it
what
is,
we're,
yeah.
That's what we're hoping, at least.
Yeah, it's got to be. Okay, well, with that, guys, I apologise for the intro. It's
Wait,
it's
no, wait.
Why?
This is the
What are we
magic.
doing wrong?
This is the magic.
Computer 3 to beam to 10 forward. Welcome to 10 Forward, the part of the show where we grab a drink or whatever we want from the replicator and share our immediate thoughts and feelings on the episode we just watched. Most important question first. Aaron, what would you like from the replicator?
I would like a goblet of wine, sir.
Nice. Ambassador.
I'll be drinking a father's tears this episode.
Oh my. I will be drinking gaseous gaseous anomalies. Yeah. Gobbling up those gaseous anomalies.
Was that your nickname in high
right.
school? Gaseous Anomaly? Was it?
Yeah. That's me.
Anomalian.
That's it. So this week, the Kingdom of the Elysian Kingdom is the title of the episode. The crew of the Enterprise find themselves in a rather uneventful nebula until all of the events had to happen, and the crew is transformed into the characters from a fairy tale book Dr. Mbenga is reading to his daughter, with only himself and Hema immune to the fairy tale, and together they must find a way to crew. I'm just going to go straight to Deneé because I have a funny feeling somebody enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, this one had some ups and downs for me for sure. Although my notes at the very end are fuck you show, fuck you writers, fuck you Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of me aggressively being like, but who gave you permission to squeeze my motherly emotions there?
Yeah.
I didn't say, yeah, sure, you can get into my psyche and fuck with me as a parent. That's great. Let's do that. Which is
Thing about shows, they don't have to ask permission, and perhaps they should.
but that's my own issues with emotion aside, because Aaron loves emotion, so this is probably like super exciting for him. Or for me, I'm just like, God dang it, I didn't want to think about losing my child today. But I had so much fun watching this episode. I laughed. I almost cried. I would not let the show let me cry, but I almost cried.
That's huge.
I scratched my head in confusion. I was excited when I figured things out early. So yeah, this was a good one for me.
Oh, that's awesome. I actually think that Aaron will not like the emotions of this episode. But Aaron, what was your immediate thoughts, general feelings?
Good call, Captain. Yeah, this is a tale of two episodes for me. I enjoyed the frivolity. Really enjoyed the frivolity. I'm always down for kind of a goofy little play. And then the episode just went completely unearned emotion. Like, it's one thing to earn emotion. It's another thing, and we'll get into it in ReSINstance, but this is some of the shallowest attempt at pulling on heartstrings I've ever seen in Star Trek. Like, I'm not a Star Trek aficionado like you, so there's probably some other shallow moments.
Oh, there are far worse moments. Yeah, this doesn't even rank in the top 20. But I totally get.
But you are absolutely correct. The last 10-15 minutes of the show, I was out. Like, my brain was giving the biggest skip ever to skip. So yeah, that's a good call on your part.
Wow.
I get where your emotion comes from, Deneé. But it is the laziest storytelling in the world. But anyway, ReSINstance.
Wow, you two. Wow.
ReSINstance. My general thoughts was I was ready to call it at about 40 minutes in. Favorite episode of the season so far.
Oh, nice.
Loved it. Adored it. Friggin' just loved all of it. Give me that Mbenga Hema team up.
Mm-hmm.
Love the characters who get to act differently to how they usually act. Love it, love it, love it, love it. It's a great holodeck episode in a series where we don't have holodecks yet. Perfect.
Oh, that actually answers one of my questions for later, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay. That last 15 minutes, I can't even say anything about it now until we get to ReSINstance, but it is.
Oh, you two are killing me. I'm gonna have to defend that shit.
You don't have to.
Some of the.
No, I'm gonna. I mean,
hey, defend it away, and this is completely subjective.
Sure.
It's some of the worst story arcing I've ever. It's to the point of why even bother with starting the arc if this is how you're going to end it.
I like how I clearly have a different opinion, and I'm like, wow, this is going to be difficult, and Ian just slams it even harder. Like, you're just begging me to come to the table right now.
I don't beg. I'm just presenting my thoughts in my own way. But onto the good stuff first. Deneé, give us some good stuff.
Let's
what
talk
did
about the last 15 minutes. Okay. I think we're probably all going to agree that just watching this crew get it to ham up this sort of medieval story where we get to see all of our beloved crew as a new character in what will become some of the best cosplay you're going to see at a Star Trek convention soon.
Oh, you don't even forget about it. Yeah.
I'm so excited to see what people put together from this alone. Like, Ortegas in this outfit was just fantastic. Like, I cannot wait for someone to come in with that haircut.
Heck yeah.
And everyone's gonna be like, I know, or like someone has been growing their Pike's Peak for 8 years or something.
Oh, absolutely.
And they comb it down into like the little swoopy, like the little McDonald's swoop thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the big thing for me, of course, is just how much fun they're having. Like, and I'm going to say their character names, but like Pike is just hamming it up, even though it's not Pike, it's the actor. Because I'm not going to remember the actor's name.
Anson Mount.
Sorry about that. I apologize. I really liked Ortegas in this one. It was really fun. And the back and forth between Captain Pike and Ortegas was just like super delightful.
I almost want them to remember so that Ortegas can be like really sheepish and just like, I'm so sorry, Captain.
Listen, I have a whole paragraph on that in ReSINstance, so we'll get there. I may be the most angriest about them not remembering, but we will get there.
Oh, it's so hard. That's such a hard thing to swallow. I definitely agree with you.
Dumb. It serves no. It doesn't even serve story purpose. It serves no purpose. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry.
I think it has one purpose, but we'll get to it.
I'm excited to hear.
Ooh. My other favorite part, I think that I'll mention before you guys take over too, is it's really fun to see a ship reinvented. to see the bridge, with all of the things like the banners hanging down. And it was curious because you're watching it and you're like, okay, well, the ship is still active because Manga is interacting with the ship. So this is like something over the top of it. So there's two worlds going on at the same time here. It's not that the ship doesn't exist. So that was a really interesting way to tell that story. But then in the hallways with the smoke on the ground and all the vines hanging down, and just, it looked like, can you imagine being an actor and showing up on set that day and just like how fun it would be to do these scenes, like even the room that had the candles in it, and sick bay was really cool looking.
Massive props to like the set design team and the people that like manufacture this. Like, you have like a fantastic set already, and then you redress it whilst keeping like the ship that we recognize, but just with like, the fog and the candles. And like I said, the costuming is always fantastic. This show, regardless of content, and the content is usually pretty good, I love looking at it. I just like sitting back and looking at what's on screen.
Agree.
It's so great.
It's so fun. And you're right. This is that perfect holodeck episode without having a holodeck, which I, again, did not know was a thing. I had questions. I was like, well, why didn't they just do it like this? I was like, oh, because the holodeck didn't exist. Okay.
Oh, yeah, they don't have that technology yet. Apparently there's I think they mentioned some experimental things somewhere. Like, Discovery pretends to have a holodeck, but it isn't, and it annoys me, but never mind. But this ship definitely does not.
One of the things I laughed at the very most was when Hemmer cast his magic.
Oh, man.
The end. It was so
and I love that it's not just a bullshit, I'm going to hope that this all goes well. He has a goal. He has a plan. And it's just like, bing.
He's like, I'm a wizard and I'm going to use my powers for powerful things. And he was just like stumbling through it and trying to play into it. Oh, it was so great. That scene killed me.
Just Hemmer, man. I keep calling for it. More Hemmer, please. And
more
he
Hemmer.
Just sang in this episode.
Have you got to see his antennae move this one?
No, little wiggling
Which
about
was
and
so
become
cool,
erect.
like when he was taken over.
Yeah. Something I wish we'd see more of, because like the Andorians in Enterprise, which is the most recent series before this in Discovery, they had Andorians quite frequently. And they were always wiggling about. And then whenever they were like relaxed, they were down. But then like there'd be a sudden noise and they would go ping.
Like perk up, like a dog's ears.
And like turn around. So great. So great.
Oh, it was so cool.
Aaron, what did you love about the episode?
I think the key to the parts I super loved about this episode is how it took full advantage of doing this by creating alternate characters for people we already know and doing it in a way that was almost opposite of who they are on the ship. Very, very smart, because it does a couple things. Number one, it allows you to laugh at the juxtaposition, right? So when Noonien Singh is like coming in with like real like Kardashian energy or, whatever.
The puppy.
Yeah, you get to go, oh, that's so different, right? Like that's the opposite of who she is in the real ship. So you get to play with that. You also get the added benefit of going, look at those actors act. They've got range,
yes.
Yes,
they do.
And so that's really fun, because you've got the show level, and then you've got this meta level of, that's impressive. Nicely done. You pulled it like Noonien Singh. I was like, that's like real Jennifer Garner energy, like going on. Like, she's really funny
Real
as
range.
a comedic actress. A little bit of Sandra Bullock in there too. So I really enjoyed. That was probably at least I think probably the best decision the episode made was to really give people the chance to kind of play around like that. And I have several like quotes that I just I died at. I don't know if you want me to go over those.
Yes, I want to hear them. Yeah.
Do the quotes.
So, and I have from several people. Like, I loved it when Hemmer was like, I'm going to use the full power of my powerful wizard powers. Pike had a couple things. When he went, hold the jester. I just
Hold the jesters! Hold the jesters!
hold the jester.
I died.
And then the other Pike one that I loved when the one character was like the swamp of infinite death, and Pike was like, "This is not a good swamp."
That's not a
So great.
Oh, man.
He was
that's
such
so
a good comedic relief in this episode.
He's perfect.
When so were others, because like you said, they switched their personalities and so it became like a comedy in a way. But
There was
Pike was on point.
Chapel had this beautiful thing that I always laugh at, where a character leans into the screen and says something and then leans out, which I always find funny for whatever reason. But as she leans in, she goes, "What were her dopamine levels?"
She just like she doesn't know what
She doesn't
dopamine
know what she's
is.
talking about.
I just want to be part of the conversation, people.
Conversation.
It's so great. Hugely quotable episode. I almost wish that Hemmer had been under the influence as well, and that he'd been put in like into one of these comedic roles, because yeah, whenever you see the harsh characters get to lighten up, it's so much fun. And yeah, Pike just being the jester is beautiful, and you're right, it really shows the range of all of them. It's my favorite part of the episode as well, was just everybody hamming it up, getting to play and have fun. Uhura getting to be an absolute like wicked witch of the West badass on her throne.
Yeah.
So great. Just one side note, I couldn't unsee that the dog was going to town on Lyanna's chestal area. Like it was licking, and then it kept licking, and I couldn't move my eyes away, and I was like, "Stop that dog!
Okay,
Stop
hold on
it!"
a second. This is in your positives of the show.
It's an observation. I'm not going to say it's positive or negatives, but it was distracting, and I was like, "Somebody needs to move that dog away."
Ian would have definitely written an amazing sin there. Let's just say that.
Oh, it would have been. It would have been like every other word was boo or something.
Oh, that's funny.
So funny. No, it's great to see them ham it up and have some fun.
It was, and do you guys? There was a moment when Hemmer, as himself, who later isn't him, he doesn't actually remember it, but he was himself, right? Okay. There was a moment when he was thinking about like ways that they could sever the tie between the Nebula and Mbenga, and he's like, "If we can sever the connection, like by hurting you," and I was like,
Wait,
"Oh my
what?
god, Hemmer's kind of an what?" It just kind of revealed a little of his personality, and I was like, "Whoa!"
This is where I'm going to jump to. It's like, this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt.
Like by hurting you, for example, it wasn't like make you laugh.
No.
It wasn't like it was like hurting you.
Pain. Going
Matter
to
of
try
fact.
pain.
His character was really fun to see again, which of course we know he was going to be there because of the previously awnings, but it was nice to see him again for sure.
I did like the author of the book is a chap called Benny Russell. Now this is an outstanding and yet mildly confusing callback. So Benny Russell exists in the Star Trek universe. So in Deep Space Nine, the basic premise of Deep Space Nine is there are aliens that live in a wormhole and they can see time and whatnot. Captain Sisko at some point is given a vision, and he's thrown back into the body of a chap called Benny Russell, who is an African-American Prince sci-fi story. And it's such an emotional episode. Basically, he's not allowed to print his stories because of his race, and it's not believed that anybody will buy into the fact that he has the ability to make these stories and whatnot. And just the fact that this book is authored by him is so interesting, because it means that he overcomes that. He makes his own stories. They're now held up as like great literature, and it's just such a great callback to make him the author of this story.
That's fun.
So cool. And that episode is far beyond the stars. Just if you're going to watch an episode of Deep Space Nine, watch that. That is how you earn emotion and how you earn an arc inside of one episode. It is. It broke all of the actors, everybody on the screen. It is such a great episode. So yeah, I loved that. A little callback.
For the emotionally challenged, that's one to avoid. Thank you.
No, still watch it. It'll break you, and you need to be broken by that episode. It's so great. It's so good.
Gee, I wonder what's on our short list of things to watch now.
No, that is not one we'll be talking about on the pod unless there's a very specific set of circumstances.
It's just you sobbing and me being
It was
like,
just me sobbing completely. Just Hemmer's whole like speech of "I will send you to the event horizon," and Spock's just like, "It's not a thing. It doesn't exist."
which is a dark realm full of chaos and monsters.
There's a real Princess Bride energy to some of those deliveries too.
Yes.
Like that, because he says, I think Spock in that moment says something about he's bluffing, and I couldn't get Vincini out of my not Vincini,
Yeah.
Yeah, completely. How do we have a better lightsaber fight in this than we do in all of Obi-Wan? The Ortegas like sword fighting was so great.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. Yeah,
It was fine. Couple of choppy cuts. No pun intended, but it was good.
Is that something that the actor, sometimes these episodes are sort of like after the crew has been together for a while and you realize that they have skills.
Yeah.
And so you're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to write that into an episode.
Right.
We need to see you swing a sword,
Like suddenly Picard knows how to fence. That definitely happens.
But it was fun. That was a fun fight scene.
It was super duper fun. Deneé, anything else you want to pull out?
I was just looking over my notes. I really wanted to put forth the costuming in this one again was just really, really fun. But that little girl, Rukia's dress was so
The iridescent
beautiful.
flowing thing.
Yeah. I was sort of stunned by several of the decisions, that were made. But the fabric, I know I've seen it before, but that particular fabric is just really, really interesting because of how it lays. It wasn't like it was iridescent, but still a solid piece, and just picked up the lighting really, really well of that room with the nebula behind. And she just looked so beautiful in it. And it had the beadwork around the neck that looked very just, regal. And then it kind of had this ombre effect to it. She just looked like a flower. And I loved her hair.
Yeah.
And those beautiful, like thicker sort of pigtails kind of thing. But they were like poofs. Oh, it was she looked
You just want to squeeze her.
incredible with like a little glitter on her face.
Yeah.
And I have a theory about the glitter, and I just want to say that it had to come from what's the one that's she usually fights? Well, no, not Una.
Noonien Singh?
Noonien Singh. That came from her dress, which the moment that dress came in the room, I was like, what
So
were they
pretty.
thinking?
I love that dress.
It was, no, hold on. I'm not saying it's beautiful, but there is glitter everywhere.
Oh, yeah, they're not cleaning the ship.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
The set is ruined. They're going to give that to some movie that they can blow up, just like I learned about for Star Trek 6.
6, yeah.
This is the blown up. And why? Because glitter is everywhere. There's no avoiding it. It is everywhere. That is why it's on the little girl's face. Because she went over and she gave that actor a hug. And then like, you know what? We can't get this off now. We're just going to roll with it.
Working into the story. Yeah.
Just rub your face on there.
This is why they had to write her out, because they'll never remove that glitter ever.
No, it's just like to this day stuck to her body.
Amazing.
I also had to say that another note that I had was the name of the dog, which was Princess Luna.
Yes.
And for a split second, I was like, the dog is that rock, that stone, or whatever it is. Like, what if that's the secret? Like, because I knew like this entity is hunting for it, whatever it means. I didn't know what the it was. I didn't know why it was interesting. So I was trying to figure out what it was. And I'm like, is it the dog? But no, this being just created a dog out of nothing.
Apparently so. Like, I thought like maybe the dog was the alien and they just didn't realize that we can't communicate with dogs.
Is it the stone? Is it the alien? Like what? And then he scans the dog and I was like, okay, check. All right. I guess we're fine. And I think the only other thing I would say that I appreciated that they did, although I think you guys are going to sin it, is bringing in the adult conscious version of the child to speak for itself, which I know is an out for them to justify the decisions that they made and made us endure in this episode. But I still feel like it was a good idea and a much needed moment for me to believe that character, Omega, is going to be able to get over what just happened. If they didn't have that scene of reconciliation, every single time that man was on screen, I'd be like, there's no way he's not a broken man. There's no way he can, you know what I mean? Like it would be really hard for me to kind of just move on from the decision that they made to make this the child's ending. So I thought that was interesting.
I still think he's a broken man, but yeah, I agree. It does give some credibility to, if there is a strand that I can hold on to that this man is okay, it's the fact that he saw his daughter happy, grown up, and living a life. But that's still not it. Anyway, on to the good things. Commodore, quickly. Commodore, give us something else that you like.
You guys have really mentioned all the other pros that I would mention, like the set design, the costumes, all those kind of things. I guess the only other moment that I was thinking made me laugh was at the beginning when Pike is like, no battles, no chaos. And then he almost breaks the fourth wall, basically.
Yes.
He's like, he almost looks right into the camera and goes, isn't it a nice change of pace? Like he's talking to us or something. I thought that was really funny. I mean, he didn't literally break the fourth wall, but it was like as close as you can get.
Man, I wrote it down as a sin, and I was like, can I? Because they've just written it down as well. They just took us to ReSINstance and said, no, you're jinxing it. This is what always happens on these episodes. Yeah, fine. I'll give you a pass. You knew exactly what you were doing.
They hung a lantern on it, but I thought it was funny.
I just wanted to mention too. I thought it was an interesting thing to throw out that we see Dr. Mbenga like working in the lab and inhaling this sort of potential hallucinogen, and it was actually like a red herring. I thought that was clever because every once in a while it's nice to kind of have clues on screen, but some of them just really aren't clues. It was just something that he was doing, and that didn't actually play into the mystery. But they gave just enough sprinkling of potential that my puzzle brain was activated and kind of pulling from information. So I thought that was clever.
Oh, for sure. I assumed that was why he was immune.
I think it was the Nebula choosing to use his daughter's story to speak to him.
Yeah, I think Deneé's right.
Right.
That's what
That makes much more sense. I much prefer that.
Yeah, the Nebula wanted the child to have fun. And so the child was playing a game with her father.
Yeah.
So it had nothing to do with the experiment.
Oh, that's awesome. The experiment is a super red herring then. That shows a high level of awareness of, this is the trope you think we're going for, but it's not that. I love that so much, because what are the odds that Mbenga just happens to find an immunity to this thing and it's so linked to him? No, I like that a lot more. There's just a couple of little touches that I really liked. It was the shift that Mbenga made into, I know how this story goes, so I'm going to lean into it and use that to my advantage. So when he quotes the accords that stop Hemmer from, or should have stopped Hemmer from getting kidnapped, I was like, yes, use your knowledge. This is like if I was stuck in a Star Trek holodeck, I would start like quoting treaties and like I would know how to interact with some of this stuff. Like he wasn't as clueless as maybe some stories might have made him out to be. So I like. And on a similar vein, partway through, I was like, man, this episode would be so much better if there was somebody with him. Like, if he had a team up with somebody else on the crew that knew that this was all bullshit, and then enter
and then Hemmer comes.
And I was like, yes,
so good.
Love it. So good. So satisfying.
To that same note about them kind of knowing and seeing things in advance, too, like, I really like how before they got into the story, because the story is like what you remember really about, obviously, this episode. But leading into, before it switches over into this medieval mystery, there was this really interesting moment where you could see that his daughter's life was like really weighing on him, and he was beginning to lose touch with his job. And there was this really interesting back and forth between Mbenga and number one. And she, again, showed an example of a strong woman who understands what the crew and the ship need, gets information, is understanding about circumstances, but still has boundaries. Because she was like, I think you should get some rest. And he's like, no, I'm fine. She's like, well, then this is in order.
Yeah.
Just, like that
rest.
Sort of conversation back and forth of, are you okay? You're not okay. So she's taking care of him, but also her crew too. I don't know. It gives a lot of, this episode did an interesting thing where it really gave me some more weight about how the ship crew interact on a regular daily basis, which would be kind of boring maybe to see all the time, but it gives that. And then it went into this like wackiness, and then of course swinging back into some seriousness at the end.
I love it. If the definition of what
it was really cool.
of what the first officer should do, and we see lots of first officers take up this role of the captain has to remain a little bit more distant because he's got the really tough decisions to make, and the first officer is the one that is more on the level and does like performance reviews. Like we've literally seen Riker do performance reviews, and I love that nitty gritty day to day stuff of how Starfleet operates.
It makes it real. Yeah.
Last thing I'll say is that obviously I love that it was Dungeons and Dragons. Like this was such a D&D episode. It turned into a literal dungeon crawl on the Enterprise of got to get to the Queen, got to get to engineering. Love it. So good. Any final thoughts, Commodore?
No, I think I said what I needed to say.
Beautiful. Hemmer was the MVP. I don't take any questions. Hemmer was the best. Abracadabra. Okay, with that, let's head over to engineering for ReSInstance's Futile.
Warning. Warp core collapse in 10 seconds.
This is the part of the show where we re-engage our sin brains, remind ourselves that no TV show is without sin, even our beloved Star Trek. Deneé.
I just realized I should have saved the glitter dress for Sin. Oops.
Oh, you're fine.
Definitely
How
should
dare
have been
you,
Sin.
Deneé?
I'm sorry about that.
Ruin the podcast.
Absolutely ruined it. Okay, Deneé, go first.
Okay. So the moment when Hemmer says, "Don't look, it will blind you." Didn't he say that to Mbenga as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure because I think that means that what I would sin here is that, but we can see it. Oh, you're going to blind us, the viewer.
Blind the
like,
audience?
I kind of
like, why didn't we? Yeah, break the fourth wall
You
there.
didn't tell us.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think I'd have some fun with that one. It was a really fun moment where he's like, I'm blind. It won't bother me, but, turn away. And I'm like, well, are we supposed to turn away? Like,
Camera zooms in. Well, I'm fine. It didn't blind me.
Yeah, it's like all the sparks are flying out. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's not, thank God it's not showing the actual laser.
Yeah, very true. Oh, I love that.
I think that it would be kind of a fun moment to have the narrator play with the script.
Love it. Commodore, I don't know which one you want to go for first.
Man, there's a lot. I think that the strongest place to start is to start going over what the rules and what really happened in this nebulous fantasy storybook time, because there are several important questions we need to ask. Number one, what happened to Ortega's head wound? Did it just go away? Did it reappear when it was over?
If the thing can fix the leukemia, it can fix a head wound.
No, I understand.
I don't know how, but yes.
I understand. So then did Ortega wake up and go, oh, I guess I don't have a head wound anymore?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
The baffling, on that point really quickly, the baffling thing to me, and this is what breaks it more than anything, is number one saying, so you know what happened during the missing 5 hours. As if this is news to her. So he hasn't filled them all in. So this is apparently a secret, and she didn't know that Mbenga knows what happened. So were all of them just scratching their heads, and Mbenga just went, don't look at me, I don't know either, until now?
He needed a minute. His daughter just not died.
Were there 3 crew members that woke up with arrow wounds going, what happened to me? And that's it.
Nope.
Like, he's just like, the people who know that this is all just like a fantasy aren't worried about these people that just got shot with actual arrows?
I don't think that they did. I think that they were shot, but then the nebula brings them back because it's this all-powerful being that can create.
But why isn't Mbenga going oh my goodness, I think we lost 3 crew members. He doesn't know what's going on right now.
I think that the more surprising thing is that in the moment he was so casual in that corridor where all of a sudden number one is firing arrows and he's like, I think I actually wrote this down. We should put an end to this fantasy before someone gets seriously hurt. And my response is the people that have arrows in them on the floor right now. There's such a casualness for, and that's before he knows that this all-powerful nebula is controlling the reality.
Right.
There are some chest
there's
wounds.
lots of questions.
Some of them got hit in the chest. And, why wasn't she going for kill shots is what I mean. We should have, arrows in eyes.
Well, that or even Ortega's character who is turning the sword and doing butts into the, ribs instead of, chopping off heads.
You never want to do butts into the ribs. You never want butts in the ribs.
Butts in the ribs.
And you mentioned the dog as a part of that as well. So if that dog was real, the nebula just created a dog entity and then just put it back in oblivion and was just nope, you no longer exist anymore. Poor puppy.
That dog. It was so cute too. It deserves to live.
Anything more on that specific point, Aaron?
No, I just I want all the rules. I'm asking all the. I'm like, are the clothes real? Are they just seeing clothes on each other? Are they actual physical
Great
items?
Question. What about Spock's facial hair? And his hair was longer, and he looked like a cool, different person.
Is it more a holodeck, like some sort of hallucination, or are all these things actually tangible? And the show doesn't really care to get into that. I get it,
but they are tangible because the bars blocked them from the transporter room, so it created matter out of nothing, including a dog.
But if you believe that the bars are there, then they are there. It
but
can
then
all
Hammer
be
would have walked through it.
Not if he really believes. It's all, he can believe that he is holding on to something solid. It's all in our heads. Touch, everything is in there. So I think the entity was probably manipulating the brain rather than organic matter. But it doesn't matter. Show never tells us.
But we also know the entity can manipulate organic matter because, again, the leukemia is cured or whatever. So
100%. Yeah.
So I don't know. I just
and it can reverse arrows.
I just want a little clearer,
That's fair.
on that kind of stuff.
Totally fair.
Yeah,
Totally fair.
yeah.
I mean, unless
It would be nice.
it hasn't cured the leukemia, and that is just fake as well.
And let me ask you this. If we're dealing with the case where his daughter is telling a story and wants to play a game with her daddy, which is really sweet, right? Why is her daughter's game like, oh, but leave all the actual ship parts? Why not just actually do a castle in a real fairy tale world? You know what I mean?
That would be the budget needed to do that would be huge.
Budgetary constraints.
Aaron, it would be huge.
Budgetary
Come on.
constraints. Yeah.
I understand this. Yes. So what I'm hearing
you
is
don't
yes, it's a
understand
sin.
about
That's
this.
what I'm
Yes.
hearing. Yes.
If you're like, wait, this castle looks a lot like Picard's manor from Picard. They're just redoing the manor, reusing the manor.
How strange. So I'm not going to do the big sin. We'll save that for an overall discussion. It's maybe a little bit nitpicky, but if she's sick of being beamed into the chair, can they not do this? Can you not do this somewhere else? Just beam. If it's just for
I thought the
story
same
time,
thing.
just beam her to his quarters. Beam her to somewhere else. I don't know if does it have to stay in that room or else she'll be
when she
detected?
was like, you promised me you'll show me your quarters, and he's like, yeah, I will. I'm
just do it.
well, just beam in there for a few seconds.
Yeah.
What's the issue here?
Go on, Deneé.
Another sin would be that he never showed her the rest of the ship, by the way. Anyway, I guess technically she saw it because she was living outside of her body.
I was going to say, once she became an all-powerful nebulous entity,
she
I
doesn't
don't
need
think
it
she
anymore.
really cared anymore.
No, I think so.
If I remember correctly, Ian explained that at this time, beaming around in the ship is not
Oh, no,
good.
you're right.
Even though they did this at the beginning of the show, and Ian was like, that's not usually supposed to happen, and here's why, and it was a sin at the time. But the idea is that beaming within the ship isn't allowed. It has to be in specific areas,
No, you're
and
right.
one of them is to sickbay, which is why he has access to the transporter. And the other thing is that nobody knows that she's there. So every time, if he did put her anywhere else on the ship, it would be risking being
Might be
known.
detected. No, that's totally fair. I will rescind that sin. It has been unsinned.
Your ReSINstance has been rescinded?
Oh no, my ReSINstance is not futile. Oh my goodness.
It's been rescinded.
Deneé has broken the show twice in 1 week.
I'm so
But if you
here
bring
we
it
go.
back up again, it will be rescind, and then the ReSINstance that was rescinded will be rescind.
My brain hurts. Deneé.
At the beginning of the show, so we had just gotten through the previously awnings, and then we start off, and we're with Mbenga and his daughter, and they're talking about this story. I had this thought, and I would try to figure out how to just make it a sin, and maybe it's just a sin on its own. And I wrote it down. This is as he's reading to his daughter. I say, I just realized, in this moment, that I no longer trust the show to not kill this child.
Oh.
Because we've now seen them do some pretty torturous stuff with a child that didn't have its own agency. So I know that this show is going to go places that I'm like, ooh, I didn't want you to go there. And so I wrote that down at the very beginning, and I was like, I don't trust that they're not going to do something really messed up. And they did.
Yeah, they did.
So, yep, I would write that sin.
Totally
Just
fair.
not trusting the show, I think, could be a fun sin. Something fun to play off of.
Aaron?
The show does start with some grinding, pouring, droppering excitement. That is for sure. That scene where he's just it spends a minute of him just grinding stuff in a bowl, all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely have to do that one, I think.
I'll bounce off.
Can I bounce off of that one?
Yeah,
You
go
both
for
can
it.
apparently.
Yeah.
No, you go for it. Go for it.
Well,
as long as we stay in the lab,
We
because that's
are
where mine
staying
is.
in the lab. Just that containment field came in too late. The damage is done. He's contaminated. If it requires a containment field as a possible consequence, it should already be inside a containment field. Do the thing where you put the gloves in and you deal with it like that if it's that dangerous. If you have to contain it, it should never have been exposed.
My sin is, in a way, in my mind, similar to Jeremy's sin about the ship having a kitchen at all. My sin is why are we doing physical experiments in a lab at all at this point? Wouldn't this be all computer work? This would be simulations, which was what I thought was going to be a holodeck situation. Wouldn't they perform their experiments in a computer and maybe on screen we would see it and know that they're in a simulation because of safety reasons? But there's no reason that at this point in time that we wouldn't be just putting in information on like what the computer would be replicating to create these powders and these liquids to mix together. It's not like they have that stuff on board. They replicate it. So the computer would be running that information. It wouldn't be having to put a doctor at risk of a non-hallucinogen powder or whatever, you know?
Still, it doesn't make sense.
But one, it makes it fun for us to watch because no one wants to sit down and watch someone just type on a computer. That'd be boring.
I do. This is how Beverly solves things. She just sits in her desk and gets mad at the computer. I love it. It's great. It's fine.
It's my favorite thing.
I love it so much. Like the doctor, the moody doctor from Voyager, exactly the same thing. He would just get angry. And that makes even less sense because he is the computer. He should just be running that shit in his head. Why is he staring at a computer screen?
I was just thinking, like, what is a better way for us to understand that they're doing lab work, but it makes sense in the world that we're in. But when you said holodecks didn't exist, I was like, oh, so they really wouldn't be able to use that storytelling mechanic.
The best way I've seen it done is in Voyager again. And the Doctor gets really, really excited when he replicates a centrifuge. And it was a novelty to him. So he does a lot of like liquid pouring because he's just like, this is how we used to do it. And this is really fun. That's the only way I've seen it done kind of convincingly. And even that is like,
right. Pouring liquids is cool.
Yeah.
But things that could straight up kill you because
100%.
you inhale gas,
Totally
gas
agree.
or something.
Totally agree.
Dumb. Just dumb.
Commodore.
That is one of the most ridiculous head injuries I have ever seen on television. Her forehead comes nowhere near that console.
It's the wrong side of it as well, I think.
It's completely the wrong side. And it's just like every Star Trek episode ever has, the cast do the sway back and forth thing. And she knocks herself out because she's standing.
Why was she standing?
First of all, even if she did hit the console, how do her arms not react and get in front of her head? Like, I mean, this is either terrible staging or a really uncoordinated Ortegas. So,
but Aaron, how else do we get Mbenga to the bridge?
I know, right? Exactly.
For the big reveal.
Exactly.
This has one of my favorite annoying tropes is when you're in a simulation or something and you continue to explain to the characters that they are characters from a book and that they are living in a book when the people inside the simulation cannot possibly comprehend that. There's no way they're suddenly going to say, oh, my life is fake. This isn't real. And Omega does this throughout the episode. It's like, don't you realize this is how it happens in the book? And they're just like, no, because I'm in the book. Just give up already. It's a futile exercise.
Yeah.
Deneé.
The moment when when Mbenga tells Ortegas to guard his quarters, and she says, "With my life," and promptly puts away her sword.
Yeah,
I just thought that was weird.
Good point.
It was just strange.
Good point. Yeah. Like, no, you have a sword. You can do that first. Like, you can defend it with their lives before you immediately sacrifice your own.
Crimson Guard is lurking.
Yeah.
You're in danger. Just keep it out.
That's it.
Yeah.
Whip it out.
The Crimson Guard would be a great name for feminine products, I thought. I thought that was...
Oh, Aaron.
But no, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it, though?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Anyhow.
On so many levels, you're wrong. Should we do it? Should we do the big thing? Should we do the...
We can. I've got several more, so you just let me know. Like, I can do all the little stuff before we get to the big one if you want.
Let's do some more of your little stuff.
Literally have a Bart say the line moment in this with the hit it.
Oh, yeah, hit it.
She literally says, "You're gonna say the thing," and it's just like, hang a lantern on it as much as you want. We're tired of this. Like, this is annoying. There was I think somebody said your words could polish the finest of apples or something like that. There's definitely an apple sin in there somewhere.
100%.
For sure. And then the rest I have are the big ones, the two big ones at the end. So.
The only other little one I had was that when he said, I really should have known that Roth was going to betray us because it's in the book. And I'm like, yeah. Yes.
You are correct.
Why didn't you, though?
Just ding it.
Just ding. Yes. You absolutely...
Ding.
Acknowledging the thing you just did that is stupid doesn't make it okay. You absolutely should have said, by the way, at some point, Pike will betray us. Not after the fact. There wasn't even part of the plan. That was a bad move.
This might be something you were about to jump into. Maybe this is the launching point of it all, but I think I would sin the idea that this entity wouldn't also just go ahead and take Pops too. I mean, if the entity is lonely and wanting to absorb people and consciousnesses into itself, much like the Borg, by the way, why stop at one?
Yeah.
Why not question this nebula for just a second about its intention before you just give the child over?
So much.
Obviously, it's powerful enough to hold you in its powers because it won't let the ship leave. So, but it basically says, I'm taking this kid because I know better and I can make it live forever without pain or whatever. And the dad's like, yeah, cool. Now maybe he's been thinking about it for a really long time. Maybe this has all been weighing on him and he's like, this seems to be the best logical choice, and their storytelling and their symbolism. And it definitely hits on this idea that we as parents never actually can 100% know what the fuck we're doing is the right call. And it's scary. Like I kind of felt bad for Ortegas in that manga, because it's like, what would I do in that circumstance if this was actually happening to me? And can you know the right moves to make? Like, but the show didn't want to spend an hour having a conversation with a nebula. So we kind of like skipped through that heavier stuff, which the show has done multiple times. We kind of skip along some things that need a little bit more gravity for me. But the idea that like dad not being able to like scan in for a visit or something just seemed, if this is an all knowing being, just fucking cure the kid. That doesn't make any sense in a way. And at the same time, it's like whatever. So this was just the ending that they decided to give with the kid. And there's obviously a lot we can say about it.
Aaron, you're bursting. Let's do it.
Freaking Deborah, man. Like, what, like...
Deborah.
What is, like...
Yeah. What was it called? The Genesian Nebula? And I wrote down, did you mean the Debrula?
Yes, exactly. No, the entire resolution of this story is just a Deus Ex Nebula. Like, it's literally Deborah just coming in and being like, I'm the great and powerful fog, so I say so, and here's what, like, there's nothing interesting at all about the way this all resolves, and it's something, it's one of the things the show's been dropping hints at, and I wonder if in hindsight that maybe somebody wrote this episode and was like, man, I can't get it all in here. Can we introduce her being in the teleporter earlier? Can you write that into your episode? Like, I just wonder.
Yeah, perhaps.
Because it just doesn't feel thought out. It doesn't feel like generally how you would think out a story arc that is supposed to go for a couple episodes. It feels like a single episode story arc that was just dribbled into a previous episode. But
yeah, that would have been a long episode, I feel.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree.
On the opposite side, I guess, I really don't mind it too much. I mean, we know that this has been weighing on him for a long time. He's been searching for a long time. And then we've had these moments of reading the story too. So it's not like they just said, oh, believe us that this has been happening the whole time. It has been kind of woven in a little bit.
Right, but
I think that's the point that Aaron's making.
That's the point I'm making, is that they have woven it in, and then to finish it off by going, this nebula is going to show up and it's just going to do stuff because it says it's the right thing to do, and also
it's like as little as possible.
And none of it's really going to make sense when you start to think about it. That an all-powerful being would want companionship with this little girl, but then also send the little girl back, or is the little girl sending herself back to talk to her dad because the audience needs to know that the dad's going to be okay? But if that's the case, why don't they just set up some sort of like inter-nebula phone system where maybe they can check in with each other every once in a while? But also, she's now 20 years older, so what is that? I mean, it's just there's so little thought to it. It's just a snap your fingers. And also the show has been setting up like other ideas, like a whole other planet was able to cure people from having diseases. And he's looking into that. And it's just like, it's for me, it's bad when the show sets up ideas briefly that are more interesting than what it goes with in the end, and I just find it uninteresting. And add to that the fact that it's really, really trying to play like the emotion card, with Deborah, you named the entity after Mom. So yeah, and
it is well acted. That's not the problem for me. It didn't carry enough. It didn't carry enough weight. It didn't carry the weight it was kind of asking for. it was too quick, too contrived. There's not enough of a whammy there for it's relying on the twist or the resolution on its own to do all of the heavy lifting of the emotions for me. Now, I will preface this with I haven't got any children, so I can't possibly know what a decision like this would be like. But my big question was, how can you possibly, expect Mbenga to make that decision in the space of minutes? Like, as a parent, how can he fully understand and accept the ramifications of what he's agreeing to? And also, how can you expect a child to fully agree to the ramifications of what she's agreeing to do? Like, this was a decision that was made in 30 seconds. And it's him saying goodbye to his daughter, giving up on all hope of finding a cure, any kind of future with her, like his defining thing. He's just like, yep, guess this is best. Let's go. I trust you. And just trusting her with the choice. Like, no, that's the whole point. You're a dad. She's not old enough to make decisions yet, especially those big decisions. Like, cool, let her decide whether she reads a book or not tonight or what time she goes to bed. Fine, but don't let her decide that she's going to be given up to a nebula. For me, it was just this, they wanted to resolve this, so it's how do we resolve it quickly? And I was like, well, if you don't have the time to do it, don't do this type of a storyline then.
And the fact that he never, I think you guys kind of hinted at this, the fact that he never goes, maybe take me too, like never even suggests it.
Or can I have 10 minutes?
Yeah,
like,
never even suggests anything. Like, it's just like, oh, I guess this is the only option, and so that's what we're doing.
And the trip back where she turns up, it was almost like, we know what we're doing here. Sorry, hope this makes it better. Like, she is happy. There is no question mark here. She's not, like, if she'd have come back and said, you won't believe what I've seen. Holy shit, this is a nightmare. Like,
she just comes back and she's like aging from infant to age, just over and over, screaming endlessly.
Yeah, just screaming over and over again.
I had this sci-fi thing going on when she's like, oh, Dad, it tickles. Oh, Dad. Oh, it doesn't tickle. Oh, Dad. Oh, it's right? Dad. No, it hurts.
I don't trust that they wouldn't do that. Because guess what? They kind of did that with that kid in the other planet. Yeah, they're like, they're leaving that kid to just this horrible
screaming
death.
in pain. Yeah.
So they've shown us that they're willing to do some twisted stuff.
So for me, it felt even more unearned by bringing her back and saying, it's okay. This is the best possible outcome. Best case scenario, move along. You're absolutely fine. That just it did all of the work for us.
It almost felt, and I don't think this is the case, but it almost felt like the writers were like, I don't like where we kind of wrote ourselves with this one. Let's just get rid of it. Let's just sweep it under. Let's just sweep it under the carpet and be done with this, because it's not really going to go anywhere interesting.
I'm pissed both ways. If this is going to be something that he keeps talking about over and over and over again, annoying, but understandable. If he is fine next episode and moves on, even worse.
I think that you're right, Aaron. This episode was never supposed to be created, but like the writers went on a couple months, vacation and came back, and they walk onto set and they're like, wait a second. I know this story. Why is this going into production? The cast is all like, this is going to be so fun. And then they very quickly have to go write the ending because they're like, no, we need something else. Oh God. And then they just like put that scene in at the last minute. I don't know. It didn't bother me. I don't think as much as it did you guys, because I think that it's interesting that Mbenga had these alternate routes, but they also had their limitations because they all had to have time. There's this alien race that you change, like number one, Ona's like her ability to, cure things. That's not even allowed in Federation. Then they got the other one that's not even allowed with Federation. And the relationship with the doctor that went to the rogue planet, that's something that's going to take potentially a lifetime to develop. And this is the fastest cure before her physical form actually does die. And I think that he would look at that going, I can't, if I'm trusting that this being is good, which is interesting because Hemmer was like, it was really uncomfortable. But then the being is like, no, it's going to be great. You're going to be happy and forever. It definitely had that sort of like heaven vibe to it, where they're now playing into the thought of, when we die, we go to heaven, and heaven's a good place where there's nothing, bad. And I think we all want to believe that something like that exists. And this is their attempt to give that storyline that happy ending rather than the scientific long haul ending. And I can understand why, because everybody is like this chick is stuck in a pattern buffer and she's a child and she's trapped and she wants out and she wants to play. Like, this is really, really, this needs to come to an end somehow. Why wouldn't they let it be cured, with one of the other things? I don't know. Is it because then Mbenga would, have to leave to go spend time with his child? Because there certainly isn't a storyline where he stays on the ship and the kid stays on the ship, just like we've seen with, Worf's son or Beverly's son. Like, we've seen children be on the ship before. Why not, introduce a child into this instead of...
Production-wise, kids are hard, man. Yeah.
Could be that.
I think
could be that.
The bigger thing is they've set this up and they wanted to give it a punchy ending. If it's just cured, that ending isn't punchy enough. Now, it is for me because I quite like science. So I would have quite liked that he managed to science the shit out of it, or somebody managed to help him do it. That for me isn't anticlimactic, but it feels like they wrote themselves into a corner as well, we've built this up as a thread. This needs to have some big release, but maybe this is the end of like a 4-season arc, not the end of we've basically sat with this for, it hasn't been mentioned
7?
We're on episode 8, but it hasn't been mentioned every single episode. It's still given some lip service and that's it. It's something that does lend a bit of credence to that time theory is that, the episode starts with him saying, years have turned into months and have now turned into weeks or whatever. So yes, there is a time crunch, but if he'd have started this episode by saying, I genuinely believe she has days to live. And
I think it was insinuated though.
Not enough. Not enough. That needed to be front and center of, I am backed into a corner here. This nebula is my only
there's not enough
option.
Desperation for that to play.
Exactly. Not enough desperation.
To play perfectly.
For me.
I will also mention, it is quite possible this comes around again in some form or another. And that's fine. And maybe it will win back some points. There's a possibility that, this will be the part, because we've seen this show hint at changing the future, right? And even this story that, she's reading, she eventually gets to change the story and change the future. And we know that Pike is dealing with a scene in certain future. And so she may play a role eventually in, changing Pike's future or whatever, which, by the way, gets really problematic in the canon, I'm sure. But it does feel like the show wants to play in that playground a little bit. So she may come back around and be kind of a key part to, and they can do that. They can use, she's all powerful. Like, she can just pop in at any age
but
as
not
any actor.
All powerful. It seems like the nebula has some limitations, especially for proximity, because if they couldn't leave and if she was outside of its reach, then the illness would come back. So it seems like this is a very young entity that's new and forming. So maybe it's like a Q situation. Maybe it becomes something else. It's obviously two consciousness, a child that wants to play and create. And that's a really interesting, maybe they create something that can extend beyond their actual physical fixed space in space. But it wasn't very clear. And I think that's, for me, was part of the fun of it in a way. Like, I would not enjoy an episode where the entire time is dedicated to Mbenga's emotional torture of making this decision. I watched it going, man, he has been in this torture for so long. They've kind of established that with the beginning. Mbenga looking so, forlorn and tired and weary and just at the end of himself. And he thinks about it nonstop. And so to spend a lot of time hitting those notes again, as we've already seen in previous episodes, I think I'd have been like, I get it. He's tortured. And this is a relief for him. And I think it's the writing attempting to give them just a beautiful kind of heavenly release while also not knowing the right answer. And they wrote it in such a way that it can really imitate a lot of people's lives, whether it's illnesses or sicknesses or whatever a parent has to go through, and releasing their child into the unknown and hoping that it's for the best. It's a really horrible, beautiful, horrible, wonderful, horrible thing to have to watch on entertainment, because it plagues you when you become a parent. And I think that they did a really good job. And I loved how Mbenga was so, for me, the emotion worked at the end, just really having to okay, I just made that decision. And he had tears that were pouring down after the moment, realizing it had been made. And just this, I thought it was beautiful. And even though it was a little pushed with the daughter coming back older and all that stuff, it was still, like I said earlier, I think it was needed to kind of help this to just move on. But I liked it. I mean, fuck Star Trek for making me feel I liked it.
Like I said, I think it was well acted for what he had to do. I loved the way it was put on screen and the way he acted it out. For me, I don't think you have to spend the entire episode on it. Like, you can set it up at the beginning. Like, what if, just to frame it slightly differently, what if this option was presented to him by the Nebula to begin with, of we can do this, and the simulation was then his way of working through whether this is the right thing to do or not. So he's trying to put off the decision, and Nebula says, right, let me frame this in a way that makes sense then, and throws him into the simulation. So we, the audience, are sitting with it for the whole episode, and he has to fight his way to the solution, and then comes to terms with, by the end of the episode, this is the right thing to do. Just subconsciously, that works better for a viewing audience than this decision is presented to him, he deliberates with it, and then commits in 3 minutes.
Yeah, which is better on a audience realization level, right? Because what the show is prioritizing is the twist ending, or not even necessarily a twist ending, but the solving of the mystery of what is causing this, right? Like the show is prioritizing there's a mystery to solve about why this is happening. So which is the better realization? Oh, wow, it was a Nebula that was creating a story with his daughter the whole time, or I've been with this man trying to make this decision the entire time, and I can't believe that's the decision he made, or man, it feels like that's the right decision, but that's been, like, for me, it's more engaging. The human psychology of it is more engaging than the mystery, but shows love the mystery. So
I would have hated that because it's just like the whole time it's just like, okay, well then let's just get to the end because I'm in this torture. I'm in this torturous situation as a parent.
It would still be like the humor in the storybook and all that stuff would be the same. You're just able to live the choice with him. But you kind of know
where it's going the whole time, though. For me, I would have known the whole time this is where it's going. The fun part about, for me, I was engaged the whole time with the predictions I was making about like what this nebula wanted.
Yeah.
The fact that it turned into a metaphor for his parenting, because I think it does do that. Like the whole story is geared around he is trying to figure out the best way, and like it's a really beautifully written. It's got a lot of layers to it, and I think because there's a lot going on in it, metaphorically and emotionally, that you kind of have to find your comfort thread and ride it through. And, you know, for me, it worked.
I haven't even thought about the metaphorical angle of the story. Does that hold together? Is that something you were like, is the story itself metaphor for his journey? It seemed like a typical kingdom story. I guess I didn't put that together.
He does say at the end that the crux of the story is that this king has a crystal that gives him all of his power. And then he realizes that the crystal is conscious and aware and alive, and that if he holds on to this power, it makes him feel better, but it will eventually kill the crystal. And he has to choose to release the crystal for it to live on. So, but that metaphor is only given to us right at the end.
Yeah,
Again,
I don't remember knowing that.
We don't sit with it. The story is just a basic find this thing and beat the bad
Right.
guys.
Okay.
We're not again sitting with it for the whole story. It's waiting for that twisty punch at the end.
I'm thrilled it worked for you, Deneé, and I'm happy to leave it at that. I think it'll probably work for many people in the same way.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is that they put a kid in front of me and killed it again. And if they keep doing that, I'm not watching the show anymore.
That's fair. Last final thought on it is I don't mind what Mbenga's decision is at the end. I don't mind if he says yes or no. Either way, it's the journey to get there. And for me, that I struggle to buy into a journey that takes 3 minutes as opposed to cleverly doing it for the whole episode. You don't have to sit on it for the whole thing. Just, I know that he's thinking about it, and then here looks something pretty. Go and do the adventure. Like, it is, I think.
Let us be ahead of him a little bit. Let the audience be ahead of him a little bit, where we see that this story is a metaphor for the decision he's going to have to make, but he doesn't see it yet. And then at the very end, he sees, oh, this story the whole time has been a metaphor for this decision I'm going to have to make. And
okay. Another idea.
Go for it.
This episode happens like episode 2 or 3. Let's say like 3. We meet the crew, we get to know the crew and their personalities, and then they throw this one in, right? With some information about the daughter, like sprinkled in, like you guys said. Give us a little bit more all in this one episode. And then we go on to the next one or whatever. But then we actually, for the whole rest of the season, have never left the nebula because he can't make that decision, and he's just holding everybody hostage forever. And we're just watching all these pretend stories play out because he really can't make that decision. That's pretty realistic.
I love it.
I mean,
I love it. I love it.
No,
a lot.
I hate it. I hate
like
it.
a couple years have passed. Like technically nobody remembers, and so it's technically no big deal. But then he came to the conclusion that he needed to let his daughter go because there really wasn't a life there for anybody. But you're right. He did make it pretty fast.
Or the daughter keeps, telling stories with the crew because she doesn't want to let her dad go. And they realize in the finale that the daughter has not let them go from the nebula. And all these things they've been experiencing are different stories. And he has to battle his daughter in the finale.
Ooh, that's crazy. I love it because then the daughter would actually have been like becoming this other entity weird thing this whole time. Oh my God.
She's becoming what he was afraid he would be, where she can't let go.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love it. And then super, super justified. Like, I love that idea.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate it so much. So I have a specific example here of why I hate it so much. In Voyager, and this, I love my role on this show of just, Star Trek has done this already. Voyager lands on without getting into it too much, lands on a planet where they're all duplicated. 7 episodes later, the ship starts falling apart and everyone starts melting and main characters start dying. And we're like, fuck, what is going on? And at the end of the episode, you work out that you're following the duplicated crew, not the original crew. And it is never explicitly said if those 7 episodes between were the duplicate crew or the original crew, and that has fucked me off since I watched it because I don't know. I will never know whether I need to give a shit about what happened in those episodes.
The
and that would be the
absolute
same
worst
here.
pain for fandom is the lack of knowledge.
The lack of canon. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. Tell me if this is canon or not. It shouldn't, but it does.
All right, well let's get out of that then for Ian and just ask why no memories though? Why? Somebody tell me. Why
Doesn't
no
make any
memories?
sense. Doesn't make any sense.
It's such a better show if they have memories. The show's better. It's funnier. They all have can have these moments.
Have a better connection. You can poke fun at Lance for saying, "Hey, nice dress."
You can mention it later. You can reference it later.
They won't have to live with the trauma of the dog not existing anymore. That's the only downside I can see.
Is that literally because you said there was one maybe story reason that they don't have memories, and what was that?
Mbenga would have had to explain why. He would have had to explain his daughter to everybody. I think that's the big reason is that
that's exactly what
he would be in trouble for concealing the daughter.
Conceal.
The only reason I can
conceal. Don't feel, Mbenga. Conceal. Don't feel.
Absolutely. Yeah, it would have led him into a bit of a corner, which is why I think it has to be.
That's fair. Still lame, but that's fair.
Still lame. He has to explain the escape, and he can't.
Yeah, they had to. They had to
know,
make it.
They know something happened, right? I mean, she comes in and talks about it. Like,
yeah, but if nobody knows, then nobody can answer it. They just put it down to a mystery and move on.
But she knows he knows. Yeah.
And that's it. Stays between the two of them. That's it.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Never goes any further because Una's a badass. Right. Wow. Honestly, for better or for worse, it's why I love Star Trek. It just it prompts this incredible debate, and whether we agree it was done well or not, I'm super genuinely glad that Deneé did like how it was done because, hey, that's probably at least 30% of the fan base that agrees. So there will always be different.
Yep.
I would like to think that I represent at least 80%.
I agree. Totally agree. I think me and Aaron are the ones that are too much buried in
probably
story.
a little over analytical, probably.
Yeah, that'll be it. With that, let's head to our final stop. Very briefly, the Captain's Ready Room. Welcome to the Captain's Ready Room, where we hear our predictions for the rest of the season and bask in Deneé's glory for anything she predicted for this episode or anything else.
I did.
Go for
so
it.
many
You
things. Did you, Aaron? Did you get some predictions
I predicted
this episode?
the entire episode to the every scene. Like I predicted right at the beginning, the very first scene. I predicted the you can't prove otherwise. So yes, I did.
Oh, you asshole!
You're
such a butt. Just setting up Deneé for failure.
The only thing I predicted is that the story was the daughter. That the daughter was controlling it somehow. That's the only thing I knew to be certain.
Cool.
So yeah.
I was thinking about that too. When he went to go find her in the pattern buffer and could not find her, I actually thought that she was the nebula at that point. That was when it became conscious. Like when he had beamed her back in, that it actually beamed her out into the nebula somehow, or that there was some kind of a bad interaction and she had become this conscious thing. And this was her trying to communicate with her dad to say, hey, I've become something other now and I like it here. But instead it turned it into a decision he had to make.
That's a better plot than the one we were given, by the way.
I really liked that. I was bummed.
No alien at all. The daughter just comes back and says, I'm okay. It's actually a brilliant. It's so much better.
And it's her trying to help him. It's her trying to help him cope at that point instead of some random nebula that just feels lonely.
I'm not going to let you make this choice. I've already lived 100 years in this nebula.
Yeah.
I am freeing you from the burden of my illness. Man, that's so much better.
There was a moment when, so I thought that was what was really happening. And there was this moment when Hemmer and Mbenga are down in engineering with Ortegas and Una. And they're all kind of chatting about the reality or whatever. There was like this really interesting kind of like revelation that they had in that scene where he realizes that the story had changed and it was his daughter's version of the story. And I was like, okay, we're doing it. This is happening now. And what a cool thing for her to be like, okay, I need to get his attention. And that the way that they were going to be able to communicate or something was between the dad and Hemmer, because in the story, those two characters are the ones that solve where this stone is. And so I thought that they were then going to figure out whatever mystery the nebulous needed to be able to do whatever she needed, which I assumed was going to be communicate that she was the daughter and all this stuff. So I was super bummed, as I usually get whenever I'm like, oh man, I had a really
especially
cool
when
idea.
you predict something better than what happens. That's always annoying. Amazing.
I did write down the very first mention of the Mercury Stone when
which one?
Sing?
Laan?
Sing?
Laan.
Noonien Singh.
Noonien, of course. When she walks in her dress and she's like, where's the Mercury Stone? And I was like, okay, this is obviously something. I wrote this down. So there's an alien creature looking for this stone and using the people around to find what they want, using this book to communicate with the doctor, and the entity is pulling the story from the mind.
Nice.
That's what I wrote down.
That's
pretty
damn
close.
close.
Was happening.
That's pretty close.
Pretty damn close.
Yeah.
Close
I
enough.
was pretty excited about that one.
Nicely done.
I think those are my only two from the actual show as it was going down. But I don't think I had any more like predictions for the actual overarching show, except for that if they don't go back and save that boy, I think that there are really dark people behind the scenes.
I'm glad we're going here. That was 8, right? That was number 8, and there are 10,
Yeah,
right? So we just got 2 left. So here are a couple questions. Number 1, are they doing a 2-parter? Like, and then when I say 2-parter, I don't mean legit part 1, part 2. I just mean, are 9 and 10 going to play into each other? Thoughts. And 2, are they going to go to some overarching stuff like Pike's future, that kind of stuff,
They have
and
to,
do like
right?
a cliffhanger at the end of the season? All those are kind of tropey things that TV shows do. Will this show do those things? What do you think?
I'm predicting that it's so hard. So next week's episode is called All Those That Wander. All Those Who Wander, which is obviously only the first half of a saying. So episode 10 could be are not lost. I don't know. So I think we're going to have 9 and 10 will be linked in some way. I think they'll still be standalone episodes. I just think they're going to have more of a connection than we've seen so far.
I have a prediction. Okay, you remember when Captain Pike was looking up the children of the future that he was going to eventually save? And what if one of those children is the child that they end up saving at the planet?
I don't know how that would be possible because they don't.
They go back, they save the kid,
They don't have.
and then that's one of the children that he ends up having in the future that's like on the ship that he ends up saving in the future.
He would have no record of that child, though, for it to be in his research. Could be, but yeah.
We don't know.
Oh, it absolutely could be. I don't know that we're going to explicitly talk about.
We're saving that fucking kid.
We are. I hope so. I don't think we'll explicitly talk about Pike's future. I think because, and the thing is, we know that happens 10 years from now. So there's no need to do anything resolution-wise with it this season. In fact, you can't. I don't think.
But if your idea, like if your overarching idea is to do standalone episodes that show the next several years of Pike's existence, and you do want to address it eventually, like you have somewhere you want to go with that eventually, the thing you can do is to layer in pieces of it each season, right? So something about this finale could end up playing into, so if there's something with how they save this child, or if they go back and save this child, I do think it's really a really interesting thought that they might not even mention it the rest of the season, and that kid is just there getting his life force. It might be a
season 2 thing.
Sucked out. But if they do, what part of that is eventually going to play into Pike's future, and how is something he learns about how to save this child going to teach him how to save the other children eventually, or something like that.
He already knows how to save them. Like, he does it. He just has to sacrifice himself being in a chair.
I guess that's right. I guess he's trying to learn how to save himself and the children.
And the children at the same time.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Now, there is a problem. Go on, Deneé.
Let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside.
Show them all the battery power they possess inside.
Oh my God, it's so wrong.
Take them underground.
Yep. Okie dokie.
Makes the kill easier.
Let the floating lava city gleam.
Remind us how it has to be.
I remember long ago, never to live in anyone's lava. Sorry. Hey, Ian, you want your show back?
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. As always, I'm off because it's hard to hear anything over the sound of Aaron's trembling boots.
Do I go next? I feel like I got reprimanded last time for going out of order.
I think it's Deneé next.
Okay.
Well, I want Aaron to go next.
Okay.
It's I'll go back into the buffer if you want me to, Daddy, from me.
It's the daddy at the end.
I thought you were going to say abracadabra, so I'll take it. It's abracadabra from me.
Amazing. And as always, live long in Podsper.
Thanks for listening. Want to connect with the show? Our hailing frequencies are always open through captainspod@cinemasins.com. Like, comment, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice, and be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Oh, technology, just freaking keep up with me.
How was shore leave, Commodore? You officially had some shore leave.
Officially, but I did know a fishing.
You did know a fishing. It was all off the book fishing? I don't know.
No, something.
No,
Are we talking about pahishing, or are we talking about...
Oh, are we doing the fancy computer fishing?
Always.
Is that what you were doing, Aaron? Were you mining for digital disastery and fuckery while you were gone? What's a mix?
Listen, you can only, a man can never have too many anonymous credit cards. That's all I'm saying.
Just different iterations of anonymous.
Yeah, every once in a while somebody will figure it out. You're going to need another one eventually because people figure out you're using their credit card. You keep the amount small enough. It'll take them a while to figure it out, but
Please stop telling people how to actually do this.
So there's a movie out about two people kind of working the lottery system and winning.
Yeah, Jerry and Marge Go Large.
And then I just saw I'm obsessed with my news feed right now because it just fascinates me how I'm telling it what I want to see and what it's sending me based on just clicking little things here and there. So it's trying to figure out who I am. And I have this weird relationship with my news feed right now. But anyway, I just saw this morning that somebody watched that movie, was inspired, and went and did the same thing and just won a bunch of money.
Wow.
How do you game the lottery system?
Watch the movie, Ian. The instructions are all right there.
My bad. Yeah, that's on me. That's on me.
But
I'm
you're
sorry.
the captain, so you can tell him to tell you. Like he's withholding information on you.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know.
Commodore outranks me as well, so I can't actually give him questions.
What have you done with your show, Ian?
I've messed it up. I'm actually the lowest. I'm the lowest ranking person to ever appear on Captain's Pod. It's fucking ridiculous. Do you know why I include Albie in that? Because a counsellor and a doctor are two of the only people that can outrank the captain if he's either physically unstable or mentally unstable. So technically, there are occasions where he outranks me as well.
Wow.
I am the least powerful person on my own damn ship.
I like how you stopped yourself from saying that you were the least qualified because
Yeah.
you are the most qualified.
I know I'm the most qualified. Oh, big head.
You've
Yeah.
just kind of, accidentaled yourself.
Yeah. Hey, you surround yourself with good people. That's the idea. I just surround myself with people that can overrule me whenever they want to.
So I think we can say this in the outtakes without it being like a too big of a deal. We can always bleep it or whatever if we wanted to use this in the outtakes. But I'm tweaking our names right now. I don't know if you can see.
I see yours. Mhm.
I'm gonna make you Captain Whittington. I'm gonna fix everyone so that when we use Twitch, if you're listening to the outtakes, you know something. So when we start to, go live on Twitch, you can see that our name is like Ambassador.
Nice. I love it. That'll be really cool. I mean, there's no reason we can't stream pretty quickly because we just do this, but push it to Twitch.
Exactly. No, exactly. That's the idea.
The point.
That's the idea.
Okay, how do I spell Aaron? What is yours? Commodore and Commodore and Ambassador?
When I screwed it up that one week, yeah.
Okay, so he's a Commodore Ambassador.
No,
I'm a Comassador.
Yeah.
Okay, we gotta talk.
Come ass?
Adore.
Come
Adore?
as you are.
Yeah, come as you are.
Nice.
That's what I meant. What did you hear? Good night,
Nothing.
Ian.
No.
Captain Pervert.
I'm going to my quarters now. We haven't read an email in a little while, and we just have a really nice message that came out of the blue, which was lovely. And this was from the Star Trek 4 Sins video. So I'm definitely claiming that as a message to Captain's Pod.
Hold on. Before we go into this, I just want to get... So this was not an email to Captain's Pod at CinemaSins.com. This was not a tweet to us at Captain's Pod CS or whatever our tweet handle is. This is a comment on a CinemaSins YouTube video that you're claiming for us.
Confirmed. Yes.
Okay.
Well, we all know this person just didn't know how to email the podcast. And so they're like, I'll just do this other thing where I comment on a video.
I love how we're doing this and you haven't even heard what the comment is yet.
I know, that's what I was going to say. It depends on the comment,
Of course
right?
it does. Of course.
The next step is, does it say, hey, Captain's Pod on the comment?
Basically, yes.
Basically,
Okay.
basically,
Which
yes.
is why I'm allowed to claim it. This is from Deneé Gunders, and I'm so sorry I haven't said any of those letters right. DENIZ GUNDUZ. Hello. And the message is, OMG, just hearing Ian and Deneé's voice in the intro gives me so much peace. I have never seen Star Trek, but I've been listening to the podcast since day one.
Yay! It is us! It's us on the main channel!
Reading that
Comment
message,
section.
yeah, we are. Reading that message brought me a great deal of peace, and I'm honestly my favorite subsection of people that listen to the show are the people that continue to not watch a single episode of Star Trek. They're still the best.
Wild.
It's amazing. It's so great. Long may it continue. Thank you for your lovely message.
Melissa Navia. Navia?
Okay.
Yeah,
How do you say her last name?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Ortegas.
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 I don't know, but I know she's amazing on Twitter.
She sure
I would
is.
say
And I've been
Navia. Melissa Navia.
Navia. Okay, so she's really interesting. I found her tweets last night. Yeah. So last night I was looking over Twitter. I happened across hers, and I really, as we've talked about on the show, like I've been really enjoying the SNW, almost said SNG.
S&M. Yeah. Star Trek S&M. That's
TNG.
something else.
I'm just changing the S to
Yeah.
Anyway, or T2S. Anyhow, I did something, Captain.
Uh-huh. What did you do?
Well, I just maybe sent her an email to see if she wanted to do an interview with us
Oh, that's amazing.
without getting permission from the captain first.
Just
You
do
outrank
it.
the
Why
captain,
not?
so do
Yeah.
whatever you want.
I do.
I mean, the good thing is you have diplomatic immunity, so you can do whatever the hell you want, to be honest.
It's literally in your job title as an ambassador to reach
It
out
actually
that's
is.
to
true.
other
Yeah.
people.
Yes,
so.
that's actually me. I shouldn't be doing any reaching out. You've been slacking. Series to date, you have been slacking on making me do all the legwork, reaching out to people. Captains always screw up first contact. Why do we have an ambassador there?
Well, why are you just now getting on to me about this? Listen, the fact that you didn't catch it is actually the problem. So.
Oh no, I caught it. I was just waiting to see how long it would be until you caught that I hadn't caught it.
Oh,
That's just good leadership right there. That's just good leadership right there.
Be as passive aggressive as you can at every opportunity.
Yep.
I laid down to sleep around 10:30. I could not actually rest until after midnight.
Yeah.
So it's just like 2 hours laying there like, oh, shut
What
up,
should
brain.
I do? Let's message
All the things.
helmsperson of the USS Enterprise. Let's do it. Love it.
I put my phone down, I pick it up. Put my phone down, I pick it up. Like this whole song and dance.
I think I've located your problem.
So yeah, one of my struggle moments, I found her tweet and I was like, I'm just going to send her an email. And it wasn't very professional either. Like, I'm not saying that I was rude. That's not what I'm saying. Like,
Hey, dickhead, come on my show.
Why haven't you reached out to us already? God.
Oh, yeah, right? Do you not know who we are? Yeah. Me and my dad watched episode 1 of Strange New Worlds together. Which is really lovely.
Nice.
It was such a cool experience because it's always great when you know you're confident something is good and you're watching it together. So me and him watched all of season 1 of Picard side by side. And we geeked out in episode 1 because like the Enterprise turns up, you're in 10 forward, a conversation between Data and Picard as they're playing cards. And that one opening like 3-minute discussion gave the entire series so much goodwill and grace that we didn't realize how bad it was for like the entire first season. And looking back on it, we're both like, it was a bit black. I still love it, but it wasn't quite what we wanted. Discovery, we've been on hot and cold on since it came out. We're like, okay, cool. Watching Strange New Worlds with him, I was like, you're just gonna like this. You are just going to enjoy this. This is like the next generation. You're gonna love the opening credits, everything. And he did, and he loved it. He enjoyed it so much. He geeked out with the opening credits and the theme music. He was just like, they're just fun. Like, this is just a great adventure. And I was like, enjoy. Like, just go and watch the rest of the season. Enjoy it. Yeah, it was such a special little Trek moment with Dad.
That's great.
Counselor, where's my counselor? Why does this mean so much to me?
My money don't jiggle, jiggle. It folds.
I hear that song one more time, I will rip off my own ears.
The jiggle, jiggle thing is genuinely funny. Like it to me, it's a statement on how like anything can be made cool, you know? Like this guy is basically on a talk show, right? And is like, yeah, I know how to rap. And then just does this rap that he was taught by actual rappers or whatever. And it's just old white guy, you know, saying stuff in rhythm kind of stuff. Well, then TikTok takes it, puts a backbeat behind it, puts a really cool rhythm to it. And they're doing like these cool dances to it. And it's, I don't know. The first time I saw it, I was like, that's awesome. And then once I knew more about it, I was like, that's kind of cool. But no, it is everywhere. Jiggle Jiggle is everywhere.
Yeah, except for not me. Yeah. I'm the old lady on the outside. I don't know anything these days.
Imagine if Weird Al made one 60-second song, and that's the only one that you ever heard. Genius, clever. I'm sick of it. Obviously we sing cliches and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. The shortest like turnaround I've seen from that's really funny to fuck me, that's a cliche is on TikTok. And it can happen in about 72 hours. Like it's such a short turnaround because everyone jumps on it. So that Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill song is huge because of Stranger Things now. It's now on every single TikTok video, whether it's talking about loans, a new car, a dance, a comedy thing. It's just because it's the trendy song, and it's so vapid and grrr.
Yeah, you need to delete TikTok.
No, I do.
You need to get off TikTok. Because it really is all it is. It's just taste this variation of sugar. Isn't that amazing? Taste it again. Taste it again. Taste it again. Do it. Take it.
Jiggle, jiggle.
Hey, Aaron, you remember that one time Ian tried to get us arrested?
Shit.
Boy, are we ever ready.
Boy, are are we ever ready to record Captain's Pod here, Captain?
Gee Willikers, sir, can we record a podcast?
Permission to jump into the recording room there, sir.
All we need to know as a primer is that Deneé has never...
Country, right?
Yes, but he says it country, so it's a
Okay.
little different.
Got it.
You know.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Your face.
Ian.
I have to get this edited today.
Hey, man, this is part of doing it. It's just part of it. We
I'll shut
can't
up now.
help that
I'll
you
shut
said
up now.
Okay.
That's where the magic lives, man.
Oh my goodness. Chill
I
chaos.
apologize for the genius hilarity that just ensued.
Yeah, sorry. This is fucking gold.
It's just been like 15 minutes and we haven't even mentioned the show. It's amazing.